The book I want to recommend today is called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women by Valerie Young. I recommend this book because it was recommended to me by a friend of mine when I was suffering from self-confidence issues. And this book deals with something called imposter syndrome, where a lot of successful women, especially in STEM, feel like they are frauds and they don't deserve the accomplishments that they have achieved. I think it addresses a lot of the reasons why women suffer from lower confidence, and it really helped me propel myself in my career. So I recommend this book actually to students from secondary school all the way up to women who are already working in their careers, because a lot of women are not aware that they have this syndrome, and it could really help you with your self-confidence.
Today, women studying science and technology are quite common. It wasn't the case many years ago. Look at Lisa Meitner. She loved physics, but she was not allowed to do experiments in a lab. Instead, she did her research work in a dam basement. She discovered nuclear fission, the nuclear reaction that releases energy. In 1944, the Nobel Prize was given to Otto Hahn, her research partner, but without her. 30 years after her death, a new chemical element was named in her honor. Her famous quote was, "Life need not be easy, provided only it was not empty." Learn how these 52 amazing women overcame their challenges by determination and intelligence. Enjoy.
I'm recommending The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan, and I have 3 reasons. The first is because I read this when I was about your age, which sadly was more than a quarter century ago. The second reason is because this is a recommendation for International Women's Day, and I thought it would be good to recommend a book about mothers and daughters. The third reason is that this book is available in English. It's also available in Chinese, and it's also available in video. Finally, I'd like to share a quote from this book, and it is, "If you can't change fate, change your attitude." Happy reading!
你係男仔，你唔可以喊；你係女仔，你唔可以粗魯。着藍色，着粉紅色，唔可以玩公仔，唔可以玩車仔。要曬黑，要美白，要養家，要顧家。
性別係性別。你係你。
Guess what? It's me.
Hello everyone, the forum is about to begin, so would all the guests be seated, please?
Please feel free to scan the QR code for the forum rundown, speakers' biographies, and most importantly, to participate in the Q&A section.
And at the end of the forum, you can also participate in the Q&A, in the feedback form through the QR code platform. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jenny from Computer Engineering.
And I'm MB from the Environmental Management and Technology, and we are your MC today.
Welcome to Women in Innovation Forum, the highlight event of International Women's Day at HKUST campaign.
This forum is open to public and also live streamed to registered secondary schools. So let's say hi to the camera over there. Hello.
Those secondary students can also participate in the Q&A session using the live stream platform.
And we are very glad to have some secondary school joining us here as well. So Jenny, I know you're from the engineering school and you're one of the very few female students in your department. So how do you feel about it?
Yes, so I'm very excited to be emceeing at this event because I believe the forum and the discussion will cover important issues that I've experienced at this school so far.
Well, that's very great to hear that. I'm quite sure that you'll find this forum very interesting to you. So now, let's invite Professor Wei Shi, Acting President of HKUST, to give us a welcoming speech here.
First of all, good afternoon. I had a little bit heated meeting this morning, then I went to see a dentist, and I became calmer, but my left hand is a little bit, I think, numb right now, so I try to go slower. This is a very special event for us. You know, every year, we, HKUST, we find different venues to celebrate International Women's Day. But this is the first time, in my view, that under our VP for Institutional Advancements leadership, Dr. Sabrina Lin, and the colleagues, to put together multiple programs to show that there are many aspects encouraging, fulfilling, and also challenging that we try to address and discuss, okay, including some of the video clippings that you just watched. You know, ideally, in any organization, diversity is not something we need to talk about because it's supposed to be natural and already out there. However, the fact that any society, including some of the so-called most advanced, most civilized societies, treat this in such a serious and a proactive manner that shows, regardless of where we are, which society organization we talk about, diversity is still to be desired. Okay, and that is one of the very reason, in my view, that we try to address this today in this forum. You know, I have sisters, and I have cousins, nieces. These are personal observations that we know there are challenges and difficulties. But regardless of the personal situation for any society, since last I checked, male, female are roughly half and half. It is simply right that we not only allow but promote and encourage all members of the society to truly fulfill one's ambition and interest and desire. And for a selfish reason, for HKUST, we fully recognize and agree that if we can promote better diversity, we will be a higher performing organization. And many studies have demonstrated this. If we are truly open, diverse, then members are, on average, more productive, happier, and more creative. And so for nothing else other than serving our self-interest, I would like to see we will have better engagement in this area. You know, we, HKUST, we are predominantly science and technology, of course, with very good business school and excellent school of humanities and social science and the IPO. But in terms of faculty and student composition, there's no doubt we are predominantly male as members of the university. That include our faculty and our students. On the administrative staff side, it's a little bit different, but overall, I would say, it's fair to say, we certainly feel that we would like to go forward with much more progress. And hence, there is a very clear policy in place, especially for the faculty hiring. We fully expect that every school will put, first of all, gender diversity, but it's not just limited to gender, but to ethnicity, culture, and many other things. We like to promote diversity, and this is part of our expectation when we do the recruiting and faculty, I think, appointment. And every year now we have a university-wide committee which analyze and publicize data to show how limited progress we've been making, even though I'm happy to see that we do have some progress to make, okay? And we are far from there, but I hope today is just one of such event that shows that we can get together to advance our common cause. Okay, and I will stop here. I look forward to listening more. Thank you.
We will now move into the keynote speech by Ms. Christina Zhang. Please approach the podium.
Testing. Okay, I'm a little bit nervous because usually the LTP is the venue that we take the final exam. I hope today is not an exam for me. And before my presentation, let me do a little bit introduction for myself. I was the alumni of HKUST. I graduated 10 years ago from business school in HKUST. I'm very proud to be alumni of UST, and every time I come back, I feel really happy because it's like a home for me. And like when I was in Hong Kong, I always travel between Shenzhen and Hong Kong because I was grew up in Shenzhen. And when the time I tried to enter university, I got two choices. One is stay in the universities in China, and the other one is HKUST because HKUST gave me the offer compared with other than Hong Kong U. And I was like, maybe I want to go outside. I want to go to Hong Kong and see a bigger world. That's why I chose HKUST and appreciate that HKUST chose me as well. So today I'm here because the topic is about women, but for me, it's a lot more than sharing my personal experience with all the students and also all the girls here today. I appreciate that you guys come from the school here. I was actually grew up in China, but my personal experience is more about, I don't see myself as a female student like when I was at school. I see myself that I will do whatever I want to do, and I'm quite brave. Because in my high school time, I've been selected as the chairman of the student union. And back then, I tried to make the speech in front of thousands of people. And I was also nervous. I tried to memorize everything, but that prepared me better for the future, even at work, when I try to stand out and speak in front of people. So after I entered HKUST, my major was accounting. And after graduation, naturally I went to one of the big four accounting firm, Deloitte. I worked for Deloitte about 6 years, and I got my CPA degree there. I thought my career life would be like that. Like 6 years after the graduation, I got the CPA certificate, and then I will become an audit partner in the future. And that's my career life. It's so clear and it's stable. Until one day that I met one of I met my boss, like current boss. You will see this is my life in Deloitte. Everyone is laughing. That's the truth. Like I love my job in Deloitte, and it prepared me so much better because long hour of working, so tough that you have to negotiate with client. All these memories are good for me and prepare me for today. That when I was in DJI, I worked long hour. I can't stand it. And the blue screen is because we type it so long hour. We work like 24 hours. Even the computer couldn't survive. So what about DJI? Anyone fly the drone before in this room? Wow, there's a lot. Appreciate it. So let's see, for those who never fly it before, let me show you a video to tell you more about like what DJI do.
Like a steering wheel, you wanna take the lead.
this video. Actually, the moment that I decided to join the DJI is right after I watched this kind of video. Back to then, we have a very video that was showing how DJI works and our vision. This gentleman, Frank Wang, he was also the alumni of HKUST. He's the person who hired me to DJI. I actually met him in one of the alumni events. I was promoted to audit manager, and I got a new role that I have to do the business development work. So the other day in the event, I walked to him. I said, "Hey Frank, do you need the auditor help you to do the IPO preparation work?" And he said, "Wow, that's amazing. But would you like to join us for the finance work?" I was like, "Wow." So he did a better BD job than me, and I got hired in DJI. That was almost 5 years ago. And after joining DJI, this is my life. This is a photo taken by me with a Mavic Pro, a drone. The view is actually in Shenzhen. I live in the left-hand part of that Shenzhen Bay, and I work in the right-hand part of the bay. It's 15 minutes drive from work to home. And why I show this photo is because I see another angle to the world. This is the view from the sky. You see a bigger world, and you have much higher vision about work, about career, about what you can do to the society. That actually amazed me. And after joining a company, I feel like I want to learn more. So using the drone to take the photo, I learned Photoshop. I try to take a lot of photos. After that, I try to use the camera to take more photos. I find the joy with my work, that I can learn different things. And even within the company, there's a lot of experts can teach me how to do this type of work. And after joining DJI, when the time I joined DJI was still really big. Today is not selling DJI. Today is not recruiting everybody for the internship. But if you want, talk to our colleagues here. So we have several offices globally. But why I want to show this photo is, if you do believe the dream, if everybody in the company, they do want to build something, build a bigger dream. Frank was graduated from HKUST 12 years ago, and by the time he started a company. At that time, we were quite small. 5 years ago, when I joined the company, we have only 300 people. And today, we have 13,000 people globally. And these are our global office. So we work very hard together to achieve our dream. And when you say in drone, it's not only taking about video and photos that you can look amazing, you can show on your Facebook or Instagram that look cool. But drone can do a lot of industrial application. And this is something really attract me and let me stay with the company for such a long journey. We can do a lot of industrial application. We have the agriculture drone that can help those farmers to spray the chemical and keep them away from those chemicals that save people's life and help people to live in a healthy condition. We can do the search and rescue with thermal camera. The drone can easily search for survivors after earthquake. We do have a lot of new broadcasting, almost all the new broadcasting company have a drone nowadays, and it's easy to see a drone when there is significant event happening. There's a lot of application, but what actually made me feel why we do this kind of business, why we want to spend so many time in the drone business, because we can help people, we can even save people's life. There is a sad story, actually last year happened. In Taiwan, we have very famous aerial cinematography director called Tsai Lin. He actually died from a helicopter accident, but right before the accident, we will have a year conversation about how we can use the drone to take the video to see the landscape of beautiful Taiwan. What he did is try to prevent all these companies to damage the environment. He tried to protect the environment. But every time he go out, he has to use the helicopter to take all this footage. But it's quite dangerous. And last year in June, he go out and try to do the video again. It was right after the raining, the weather is not good, and the accident happened, he passed away. But a week ago, we were still in a WeChat group. I tried to help him to solve the Inspire 2's problem. We tried to work out with him to fix the problem with the drone so that he can use the drone to take the footage. And I was a little bit trying to blame myself. I was like, if we could do a better job, if we could do it faster, we can save his life. He's such a great person. After he passed away, I searched all his video, what he have done, his booklet. Nowadays it's public in China, but that touches me. I feel like when we're doing this kind of business, if we can do in a better way, that is the right thing that we should do. So after that, I talked to Frank as well. I told him we should we should have our product deliver faster, and we should make better product. We should tell the story to our colleagues, our PM, so that they can work together to prevent this kind of strategies happen again. And also with education, we hope more students can use our drone. And in engineering school, like we talked to several professors that we would love to provide a drone to the professors so that they could share the technology with the student, and the student could use their talents, their ideas in their mind, their fresh ideas to make new things that with new application with the drone. And also, before I came to this forum, right after I promised to come, I was thinking, so what is the gender difference in my working environment? Do we have enough female in the company? I was trying to count, but then in our management team, we are an engineering company, we do hardware. We have a lot of engineering, but luckily in our management team, we almost have 40% of female in the company. I do believe like female is not better than like our men or gentlemen, but then we have more feelings about the vibe in the meeting or even between the negotiation process. We can understand more, we are more nurturing. So this kind of ability, we should use it, and we should use this kind of ability to help us to build more confidence that we can achieve something more. The company, when you join, or like the things when you do, is not because it's not based on your gender, but it's based on what you have achieved, what you can do in the future. And if you trust yourself, you can do it. That's what I believe as well. And this is the robotic competition. Why I'm talking about this is I try to encourage more girls here today, or like live broadcasting behind the camera. You guys should join this, you girls should join this competition because it's the competition that organized by DJI. Frank joined this competition before when he was in HKUST, but he thinks the competition is not good enough, so DJI organized a RoboMaster. In this competition, we want to encourage more students to participate in it, and the engineering world is really, really amazing. Once you enter, you will love it. And we have a cartoon made by DJI as well, and the background is HKUST. Isn't it cool? We have a lot of females there as well. So I do encourage the girls here today, be very passionate, find the true love in your heart, and then don't be afraid to change. Because when I decided to join DJI, it could be a lot challenging for me as well. I have a stable job. I'm living in a familiar world to me, and I don't even know what drone is when I decided to join the company. But then look at it. After I joined it, it's a beautiful world, and I do enjoying what I have done so far. So I hope every one of you here can follow your heart and then build a career or a life that you can really be proud of in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. Please take the seat over there in the sofas. Miss Christina, please take your seat over there. We will now go into this forum discussion and invite the moderator for today's discussion. Professor Kellee Tsai, the division head and chair professor of social science, would be our moderator for today.
You would like me to moderate? That's fine.
And also the other panel members to come on stage. They are Ms. Angie Lau, CEO of Clover Group International Limited.
Mr. Theodore Ma, co-founder of CoCoon.
Dr. Sabrina Lin, Vice President for Institutional Advancement of HKUST.
And two student representatives from engineering school, Ms. Zarina Abdusalamova, Year 3 Logistics Management and Engineering, and Ms. Talia Chan, Year 2 Aerospace Engineering.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for coming here, and especially our acting president, Wei Shi, for his remarks, as well as Christina's incredibly inspiring and exciting remarks. We've got a very exciting lineup today on this panel, ranging from engineering students to very highly accomplished entrepreneurs and leaders. During the next 30 minutes of this initial panel discussion, I'm hoping that we can give you just a taste of what our accomplished panelists have experienced, and also about their perspectives on what women are bringing to traditionally male-dominated fields of study as well as professions, and how they are contributing to innovative thinking and practices in general. One thing I find encouraging is that even though STEM-related areas remain male-dominated, recent studies are showing that across the board, cross-nationally, for many generations now, girls have been outperforming boys in all academic areas, not just reading, but also math and science, and that increasingly girls are starting to enter STEM fields as well. Now, meanwhile, we're also accumulating quite an impressive group of role models who, both male and female, who are sufficiently enlightened to appreciate the value of improving the gender balance in STEM fields and also technology-intensive fields. Now, even though, as our acting president acknowledged, we clearly have a long way to go in creating the societal as well as institutional environment that can really keep girls and young women rising through the ranks of these various professions. But I view our forum today as a real wonderful opportunity to celebrate the successes of our panelists while also having an open conversation about the challenges that they may have faced and what we can do as educators, mentors, and leaders to be supportive, and then also promote the type of risk-taking that's required to undertake entrepreneurship and innovation. So I'd like to start from the reason that all of us are here today at HKUST, which is our students. I'd like to start with Zarina Abdusalamova as well as Talia Chan. And just maybe you could just share with the audience a little bit about your thinking when you decided to major in engineering. Well, we start with you.
Thank you so much,
Sabrina.
Professor Kellee. Well, before coming to Hong Kong, I was studying 9 years in linguistics school, studying Russian literature and languages, and for 9 years. And then somehow I decided to go into technical school, into secondary high school, because I wanted to see if I'm capable of doing math and physics and sciences. And that time, I got admitted to that school, and there I really liked the idea of engineering and sciences of being so quantitative and precise. And I wanted to integrate both my skills back in middle school of literature and languages with quantitative skills I got from technology school. And then I decided to come to study engineering here because it inspired me that I'm studying industrial engineering, that you can use both skills in one field. Yeah. Thank you.
Right, thank you for sharing that. And how about you, Talia? What made you decide to major in engineering?
For testing, hello. For my own passion in math and physics, like throughout high school, I take physics and science subjects as my elective. And throughout my high school study, I realized that engineering is something that is very important in our everyday life. Like, so very small things like maybe this mic I'm holding, or to the huge construction like this lecture hall or this university. Everything is part of something that is created by engineers and is a hard work of engineers. And I really want to be an engineer so that my work in the future, when in my career, could influence or at least contribute to the society into something that everyone would use in every day.
Thanks for sharing that. And another question that I have for our engineering students is, to what extent do you feel like societal expectations or norms have made it more challenging for you to study engineering? Sabrina?
Yeah. I can start. As I mentioned, I was studying linguistics school, and by the time I wanted to change to technology school, my classmates, my teachers, some relative would tell me, Sabrina, why would you do that? You're so good at literature, you're so good at languages. I was participating in Russian language Olympiads, and they told me, maybe you're not that good enough for math and physics, because usually boys are so much better, and then there you will not be able to excel how you're excelling right now in the linguistics school. However, my dad was very supportive, and he told me, if you want to see if you're capable of that, and don't listen to people and just go and do that. And even in the school, 80% of students were boys. And I would feel that sometimes in classes, when they have problems with homeworks, they would approach their fellow male students to discuss the problems, but not me, and I kind of felt a bit of left out. But coming here, studying industrial engineering, I did not encounter any of these problems. I study with my fellow male and female students, and I feel the same way. And we work together in study groups. And I feel if it does exist, some of the biases, but right now it's changing and it's getting better. And what I realized for myself, for girls, unfortunately, if you want to show that you're also capable of that, you need to show your competencies. So that's why you need to earn respect, to be recognized as also a good professional student in that particular engineering area, for example. But it is changing, and in UST, I did not feel that I was left out, and I'm very grateful for UST to recognize both female and male students.
Wonderful. I'm glad you didn't listen to the people who want to keep you in literature.
Yeah, my dad was
nothing against literature, but. And how about you, Talia? Did you encounter any reservations when you made that decision to major in engineering?
I was a bit more fortunate than Sabrina. Like, I was glad that my families and my friends, or even some high school teacher, really supported my choice of choosing engineering as my university education choice. And it was because I was never really educated, or I was never really told on how gender would limit your ability in doing different things. Like, girls can also excel in math and physics. It's not a thing that is only limited to boys. And this is why, as I realized that I am capable in handling math and physics in this way, and it was nothing to do with my gender, and that's why I was fortunate to have everyone's support, so that I came here to study engineering. And after I came to UST, and particularly I majored in mechanical and aerospace engineering, this department is a very male-dominated department. You always hear that.
We're looking at your dean here. And our incoming president.
And even in class, you see most of them are just guys, and you don't really see a lot of girls. But the gender is not a barrier between guys and girls when we discuss, and when we have lessons, or when we discuss about academic things. So I feel like I'm treated equally, and throughout my 2 years of being an engineering student here, and it was a really great thing.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much, Talia. Now I'd like to I have a question to one of our invited guests, Angie Lau, who is the CEO of Clover, an intimate apparel group. And when we were chatting earlier before the forum, I was very interested to learn that this is, in some ways, a female-dominated industry, but you took over from... Well, I mean, the people who wear your products are predominantly female.
Definitely, I would expect them all to be ladies.
They make bras.
They manufacture bras and panties. Yes. I would say if you look at the industry nowadays, it's predominantly a very male-dominated society. Not that many of you would understand, but all the CEOs and the owners of the brands are male-dominated. It's been a very, I would say, not a tough battle, but if you look at me, I am being described as feisty. You have to fight your way through. You are being known to fight for everything. But that's part of my life, because if I don't fight, I don't get an order. So this is the real world that I live in. So for the students who are, coming here to enjoy the classes, learn about the world, come and see my world. It will be a very eye-opener for you.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Angie. And then I'd like to turn to Theodore Ma, who is the co-founder of CoCoon, which is a work-sharing space. And I'd be interested in here to what extent you're seeing more young women involved in startups.
Yes, thanks for your question. Yes, CoCoon is started as a co-work space and now has evolved into incubator along with its investment arm. And Education Foundation. We see a lot of startups. And in fact, among all the startups, we see a lot of women starting their own businesses in not just any businesses, but tech businesses. For example, we have a young member, Michelle, who started, she's a university student. She started her app technology translation service university called Weaver. We have Mei Chan, who's a former NASA engineer who started a business in baby spa and moving on and started building up a really good STEM curriculum for educating kids. And we also have another member called Viola, who started two education centers and decided to go into AI and founded a company called Find AI, which teaches kids mathematics, and have this iPad that tracks kids' attention, see if they are actually happy or their attention is taken somewhere else. And she's really built up this company and raised a lot of money. So we actually see a lot of women in our startup community, and really this is building up. And I think this is good news, because startup community is really not about gender. It's about having the best, brightest ideas. And we see that actually mixed gender teams are performing a lot better, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's not just about so-called more of a left brain engineering, or you've got to create a really good product. But who are your customers? How are they responding to them? Good products really require a good mesh of both left and right brain. Sometimes we kind of associate boys to more critical thinking and girls more creative. But actually in the real world, we need good people. It's not just about gender, but people who are talented and intelligent to really build really good companies and products.
Yeah, thank you, Theodore. And now I'd like to turn to our new Vice President for Institutional Development, Dr. Sabrina Lin, who herself has founded 2 startups and also has extensive experience in the IT sector, including HP and Cisco. So Sabrina, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts in these various places, both as an entrepreneur, as an executive, and also someone who also has a very strong academic experience, your perspective on the role of women in not just startups, but also innovation and leadership.
Sure, I think that, our students, as well as Angie, who I've known since I was 6 years old, okay? Because we went to, at least she and I went to a girls' school. I think the positive, and I think some of our audience members are also from a girls' school. I think one of the advantages of being in a girls' school is that you're not always saying boys versus girls because it's always in every class is always girls. At the same time, so we had an easy time to speak up. I have found, because I spent all of my professional career in technology companies, which is very much male-dominated, especially when you started as long ago as I did, that I think it was very important for those of us who got ahead to be able to promote and advocate for the younger people, because I did find that, that girls tend to speak up a little bit less, and they are less aggressive in fighting for promotions. And so when you find yourself in those situations, it's really important to help other people, right? So if you're not as comfortable promoting yourself, you make sure you have a friend who's promoting you, and then you do the same for them, and it's a lot easier to do. In terms of gender diversity, one of the things I've noticed, right, right now, one of the fastest growing cosmetics, and typically when you think about cosmetics, you think about women. I know that for intimate wear, it's 100% women, but for cosmetics, or maybe not quite, almost 100% female, right? Yeah, but the fastest growing demographic for cosmetics, right, especially South Korea being capital in the world, is men, young men. So imagine if you have a design team only of women, they may or may not be able to design products that is suitable for both men and women. Similarly, if you're designing video games and you only have guys, okay, the kinds of games they design may not appeal to a significant part of the population, which means that your company revenue opportunities go down. So I think that many, many companies are finding that, because if you want your products to be popular, you want to make sure that you address all possible segments of the market, and having a diverse team like what Max has said and what Christina has said and Angie has said, it really helps create more, better products and more success.
Thank you for that. Angie, earlier when we were speaking, you mentioned that that there are actually more women in your immediate workplace, right? And that you were looking for diversity perhaps in the other direction. Would you like to share that with our audience?
Well, basically, when I came back to help my father, that was about 12 years ago, I was never designated to be the one to take over, because I'm a girl. So when I came back, there were a lot of opposition, let's put it that way. And then the one thing that was a blessing was all the people surrounding my dad were women. He had a horde of women, going around and doing all the work for him. So when I came back, it actually became much easier. But now when I'm handling the company together with my sister, I find the difficulty was to balance the gender issue, because we don't want the men to feel very left out at times. And we're doing it exactly the same thing that you're trying to advocate equal gender, amongst the company. And that's why I have to do the thing in a different way.
Yeah, thank you. I'd actually like to share something from my own experience, just because I experienced both extremes. After college, I worked for 2 years at Morgan Stanley on Wall Street in investment banking. I was in mergers and acquisitions, which was a real kind of macho field to be in at the time. And after 2 years of that, I thought, okay, interesting, but not really what I want to do in life. And then I went to the opposite extreme, which was women's world banking, which is completely female-dominated, full of very charismatic, articulate, strong personality women. And then our staff person, 2 staff people were men. and they felt very excluded. And it was kind of odd to go from one extreme where the screensavers were of strippers to, women that had, were all PhDs and MBAs. And definitely, I think, political science, the field that I ended up going into, has a bit more balance, and I'm grateful for that. I'd like to turn to Christina, because I think everyone was very impressed by your presentation and struck by the fact that what DGI is doing is offering a whole new perspective on the world, and innovation is about that. It's a new ways of looking at the world, thinking about the world, engaging the world. And since DGI is a fairly new company, I'm wondering to what extent some of the things you've heard from our more seasoned panelists resonates with your experience, or is this more, you know, one generation ago's issues and startups are more inherently balanced now? I mean, what would you say in your experience? I know it's only based on DGI and Deloitte, but.
Yeah, I think DGI is quite innovative in the terms that we don't really have the boundary, we don't really have the pattern that you have to follow, because everything is new. Basically, the industry doesn't exist when we enter into the industry. We basically create the industry. So there's no one so-called is the expert can be there and teach us how to do. Normally, we don't hire the expert because why you call them expert? Because they have the experience. They did that before, but nobody in this industry exists before. So everything we have to do by our own. Like for example, the video is not hired by the outside expert. We have the in-house video team that we go out, shoot the video, do the editing, do everything together. For the consultancy, like we don't really hire the consultant from outside because even including the fundraising, we do it ourselves. Like the other day, one of the investment banker came to me and said, Christina, like I heard maybe you guys would do the fundraising. Would you like to hire an FA? I was like, okay, but like we never did that before. He was like, why? Like so many rounds of funding, you guys never hire FA before. I said, no, we have the finance people, we have the legal background people in-house, and then we just hire a law firm and we did it. So that's basically the DGI culture. We do believe if we really try to do something, you have to learn that by your own first. And then you can decide whether you want to do the outsourcing or you can do that yourself. Depends on the bandwidth. Do you have enough bandwidth to do that? So basically that's what we believe like DGI is so-called innovative. Because everybody when they came to visit us, they asked like, why are you guys so innovative? Can you share some of the experience to us? We're like, yeah, like you guys look at us like we are very innovative, but from inside out, we don't see there's much difference that we can be innovative. It's just because we listen to the customers, we find out the problem, we solve it by our own, and then we do the improvement. And that's the simple progress we did like from daily work.
Yes, I like that, kind of innovating by doing rather than kind of self-consciously saying, I've got to innovate something today.
Yeah,
Like it's a lot of pressure.
By thinking, you need to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, one thing I think some of our student members might be interested in, excuse me, new technology. We have questions coming in from some of our participants that are at high schools locally. And one of the questions here is, there is a common stereotype that women are less decisive and have less ability to undergo hardships, which are less ideal for leadership roles. Would you agree on that, and what do you think are the comparative advantages women have in leadership? I feel like I'm in a job interview again. Well, there are a number of female leaders on this panel. Would any, Angie or Sabrina, would you like?
I can start. And,
okay.
So obviously I disagree, right? So that's easy. I think that anyone can be indecisive, and all people can also be decisive depending on how determined you are in coming to a conclusion and how knowledgeable you are or prepared you are in having the right information to make a decision. I think that in general, maybe that adjective is interesting, right? So people also complain that some women are bossy, right? Now, is bossy the same as being decisive? So I do think that there are some inherent unconscious biases people have. And there are many studies that show that women who are assertive are seen as difficult, right? And not as being assertive, right? The same word assertive, if you use to describe men, right, is a positive trait, but assertive women may not be seen as a positive adjective. So I think overall, I think anybody can be a leader. And I think that in fact, I think Theodore was saying how having combination of people can create an atmosphere that is more positive. I think Christina also mentioned, right, you may have a better sense the sort of the emotional intelligence to test the temperature in a hard negotiating situation or in a conflict resolution situation.
Great, thank you. Angie, I think you had some thoughts on this particular issue too, right?
For me personally, looking at it, running a company, it takes a lot of your passion, and it takes a lot of empathy, and it depends on also whether you dive in 100%. And when you try to do that, people call you bossy. People call you like you want to rule everything, but it's actually not. It's also being compared to how men are dominating the world in the previous lives that I called. We are what people would describe, you need to know everything. You need to know, you need to be in full control. But that's not actually the case. So when we try to, in our leadership team, where 50% or plus are women, we tend to be bossy. But if you look at it equally, the men are more silent in my company. So that's why I keep saying I need to do something different.
Right.
I live in a different world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually addresses another question that was typed in from the live webcast, which is gender equality a concern for men? And I think all of you are indicating yes to certain degrees, depending on the context. But Theodore, do you have any thoughts about the extent to which gender equality is a concern for men? I'm not asking you to represent your entire biological sex, but just on this panel.
It's a very broad question.
Indeed.
Actually, I also like to share another fact about me is that aside from running my incubator, my family business is actually in jewelry.
Yes.
So I also have, the other company, I have 80% of my colleagues are women. So it is true. There are stereotypes of all sorts, but I always feel that it's very important to really think about what you want out of this. We're here to deliver good service, create a good product. So it's actually about focusing on what matters. And also, I think kind of connecting like the previous, the question along with the previous question, something just came to my mind. As an investor, I learned from a lot of other great investors too. And one really good investor, a great investor called Ray Dalio, has this really good insight. And the quote is, ask yourself if you have earned the right to form an opinion. Now, he's coming from an investor point of view, like, should I buy or should I sell? Have you really done all your homework? I think going back to something that I think is very applicable to our topics today, and is that all the stereotypes that we have in a society are reinforced by people who may or may not have thought about what these stereotypes really mean. So actually, I think sometimes it's very important that we ask ourselves, do these stereotypes mean anything to our performance? Do they mean anything to our relationships? If they don't, we don't have to subscribe to all of them. I'm not saying that we should throw everything out, but it's just we do not need to technically react to all of them all the time. It's really important that we have a clear mind when we deal with relationships, we deal with our colleagues, and that's where when people feel they're respected, they will perform and they will want to work with you. I think that's where you build teams, and that's where great leadership really comes in, is when people recognize for their efforts and not for their qualities that they so-called seem to show.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to bring our student panelists back into the conversation a bit and ask you, as you've gone through your schooling, to what extent do you have any role models, or whom do you admire, or what do you admire? Talia, do you have any thoughts about that?
I don't really have a very role model throughout my years, but I think that I would have trust in myself, in fact, because I believe in what I do, and I believe in my own capability in achieving what I can do.
I love that answer. You're your own role model. That's wonderful. That's absolutely lovely. All the people out there who don't have role models, look within. You might find something. That's great. Sabrina?
Well, I never had a role model, but I think one particular role model, I would say. When I was a kid, I was looking at this top managers, and most of them, the top managers I was looking at were female top managers, the presidents, and females that have very high positions in different industries, politics, finance, and I thought, they're so brave to go out there and do what society tells you not to do, how society usually sees females to get married and sit at home, and usually most of the top positions in all the industries are male dominated, I would say, and I would always look at these great females and be so encouraged to believe in my dreams, to believe that I'm capable of doing that, and one day I will be able to inspire the girls to do the same thing as I was inspired by looking at this strong females that were working and pursuing their dreams. So I would say the general aspect of a strong female who is not as scared to follow her dreams, it was kind of a role model for me.
Okay, thanks. We are accumulating a couple more questions from our webcast participants that I would like to turn to. One question is, what do you do when you encounter people who have certain stereotypes or conventional gendered ideas about you, and it really affects you in the workplace/classroom? So I think maybe perhaps this would, partially in response to Theodore saying, well, we don't have to always embrace these stereotypes, right? Like it's not, they don't have to stand in our way, but what if one actually experiences it quite directly in the workplace, at home, in society? How have some of you dealt with these issues? Would anyone like to
I'll
take
go
us?
first.
Okay.
Being a manufacturer, we always talk to a lot of customers, and when you meet them, some of them are, the way they address you is quite a bit demeaning, and I still have to hold my breath. I take in, and I still have to smile, because on my shoulders there are about 9,000 people and family and the mouths to feed. I have to take it in. So if people say, Angie, you're a slave, you let that continue, because you can't say no, you cannot get up. So there are times when I just have to take a very big, deep breath and smile. And obviously in my heart, I don't feel good. But then what else can you do? Right. So that's one thing that I can share with you. But ultimately, the world comes back, he will have his payback.
Oh, so there's karma. Yeah. So here's a lesson. Just because someone's smiling at you doesn't mean that you're not doing something inappropriate. Right, okay. Are there other thoughts to share with this questioner about how do you deal with it when clearly, some stereotype is being applied to you in a very unpleasant way?
Yeah, well, I think that all of us may have experienced that, right, in terms of whether it's stereotype or people's misunderstanding of either your intent or your actions and so forth. What I tend to do is, if it's in a large group setting, I try very hard. I had to learn many, many years to do this. I tend to also try to pick a fight when I was younger, but I have learned to also take a big breath. But I do try to catch the person later on a one-on-one basis to provide some feedback. First of all, once I've calmed down. I don't know if other people have experienced, if you get a very negative email or an email that you think is unjustified, right? I used to type a reply back and press send. Now I tell myself, if I'm very angry, it's better to wait 24 hours and re-look and see if I would want to rewrite the message and be able to get the outcome I want versus just to, rant.
Right.
Mark it as unread.
Yeah. So breathing is a takeaway from this.
Yes, breathing exercise is very important.
Theodore.
I'd like to just quickly add, I think that definitely works, what Angie and Sabrina mentioned. I think it's about that mental preparedness, because I'm thinking about like all the startups that have to hear no from investors. How do you walk into a room and not feel bad leaving if the investor is not willing to invest in you? So I think it's about having that mental preparedness that yes, you will have these various discriminations. You may have people who say no in your face, and for all kinds of reasons. But I think you need to have that preparedness of your own self-worth, the purpose of your work, the purpose of your life, and that is what you're in for.
Okay.
It's not about what people project their views upon you. That's not what it's about. It's about how you feel about yourself. Be prepared, and I think you'll be able to handle it and forget about the bad things that people say to you.
Thank you. I'd like to give the opportunity for our audience members here to also ask some questions. We have a lot coming in from, I'll try to juggle them carefully. I believe that people will be coming around with microphones. I see a young lady here towards the middle to the back. Please introduce yourself, just your name and school before asking your question.
So my name's Veronica, and I'm doing my PhD in bioengineering at UST. I just started this year. And I was actually wondering, so for example, my sister is actually studying international law here, where the topic is women in innovation, but the focus is very much on the STEM-related subjects. So I was wondering if there's a certain reason, or if it's still the case that women-dominated areas like nursing, linguistics, or other artistic subjects where innovation is just as possible, if this is still an issue, like are they considered worth less because of this? Sorry.
I get your question. I think that's an excellent question, and I was actually wondering the same thing as I was preparing for the panel, because most of the representatives were coming from more STEM-related fields, and I think that's more of a function that we are at a science and technology university. However, arguably, creativity stems from the humanities first and foremost, in the arts and the humanities. So this is just another way of showcasing the areas in which innovation can come out, and also in STEM-related fields, not just sort of traditionally kind of creative and artistic innovative fields. Would anyone else on the panel like to speak to that particular issue?
I actually think that innovation can be, the word innovation really means, right, doing something new or doing something in a different way, right? So I think that it could be in all of the areas. I think at UST, we're actually quite proud that we educate our students differently, no matter in what subjects. So for example, we have more active learning or practicum-led and projects. In fact, I talked to an alumni about 10 days ago where he said that, UST changed his life because where he had learned before, it was really about, textbook memorization and taking tests. And he learned about how that's not how you solve problems. So I think innovation can be that word. Sometimes we only associate it with starting new companies, right? Or engineering new products. But I think that a different way of doing research, the same traditional research in a different way, let's say through simulation versus through live animals or whatever, or innovation in the way we teach, or even innovation in the way that you do study groups with your friends, I think can be applied in different ways.
Thank you, Sabrina. I'd like to take another question from the audience here. There's a lady here in glasses and long hair. Can someone please bring a microphone over to her? Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Sharon, currently a year 2 student studying global business. So I have a question about how, when we talk about the word feminism, it's about equality between men and women. So how would you communicate the message of equality to men while sounding less like an angry feminist that hates men? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. It actually echoes a question that we received from online as well, which is gender equality a concern for men? Would anyone on the panel like to address?
Maybe I'll answer.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question. So the question particularly what we are trying to do here and what I'm always trying to achieve is that for everyone, for both females and males, for both girls and boys to understand that every human is equal in terms of we all have the same capabilities and we all can do the same thing, even if some people would say girls are better at nursing and guys are better at some more physical activities because of the biology and etc. But the main point here is that what we are trying to say, because of the history and what society tells us, we females have to talk about these issues, and it may sound like maybe we are trying to promote females, but we are not. What we are trying to do is, because the word is equal here, and there is no word as female supremacy, there is a word gender equality. And when we talk about gender equality, we cannot say that some gender is better than the other. And very, very main point here is I was very glad to see a lot of boys here too, from high schools and our students, to understand that the equality applies to every person, disregarding your gender. And what we're trying to do is to celebrate women who are trying to break the stereotypes about females. But at the same time, there are a lot of stereotypes about males, and that needed to be broken, the stereotypes about male students. And what we are trying to do here is to address the issues we encounter in our daily lives, but try to be open-minded and understand that male students and colleagues and our workers have their own concerns too. But the topic and the word here is equality, and when we talk about equality, there is no supremacy.
Okay, thank you. I think
May I quickly add something? There's something that's very instrumental that we did about 12 years ago. In my company, we had started a healthcare system where everybody, regardless of your gender, regardless of your grading, whether you are a CEO or you're a messenger or you're a driver, you have the same healthcare plan, and you go and have your health check every year, regardless whatever. So this has been instilled for 12 years already. And we also have paternity leave 12 years ago. So regardless of what the government is trying to push ahead, we're doing it. So that's equality for you.
Yeah, this resonates with the question that just came in. Can you ever achieve gender equality at work without achieving equality in domestic roles? What do you think? Is it possible to have gender equality at work if there isn't gender equality at home?
This reminds me of, as many of you have probably heard, Sheryl Sandberg is the CEO of Facebook. A few years ago, she published this book called Lean In. But one of the things she mentioned, and I don't know how much of it was a joke or how much of it was for a soundbite, but she said the most important career decision a woman has to make is who she marries, right? Because I think the only way you can achieve, you can meet your goals is if you have a good support network. And I think actually that's true for both men and women, right? So if you have a family support, it makes it easier for you to achieve your dreams. Even if it is similarly for you, right? Because you had a father that supported you, you have that support, and you can become what you want to become, despite that you hear other noises, right, around you. So I think that it is very difficult to achieve equality all over if you don't have the complementary support network. And I urge everyone to make sure that you actually build one. And if family isn't one, then make sure that you have a set of friends that can support you.
So-
I certainly know that because I have 4 kids, and I could not have raised 4 kids and had been working for the last 30 years if I did not have a good support network.
Thank you, Sabrina, because you have just answered another question, which is behind every successful man, there's a woman. Do you think behind every successful woman, there should be a man? And then if one is, you're implying that support, regardless of gender, is essential for success, ultimately. Okay, I'd like to take other questions from the audience. Here's one in the second row, please. If you have a question, please go ahead and raise your hand so we don't lose time between questions.
Hi, my name is Vera, and I'm a student from Grove School in Hong Kong. And my question is that since gender inequality is such a big problem worldwide, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges in fighting this problem as like a global issue?
You have stumped our entire panel, a high school student.
I don't want to. I don't want to dominate, but let me start, and maybe other folks can start. I think that all big things start from small steps. So I think we look from within, right? So are we trying to support our peers and our friends, and are we actively at a local level trying to make a difference to balance inequality? And then, of course, as little, all big steps happen from little steps. And so that's what I always try to remind myself. Am I advocating for my fellow men and women who are being either mistreated or are being treated unfairly?
Yeah. Theodore.
I'll try to take a stab at this question. It's a big one. So I think it has a lot to do with ignorance and arrogance throughout a lot of different societies. And I think it's important that I think it's important that we actually talk about this and actually have more people discuss and actually get educated along the way. I think this kind of corresponds to another question another student mentioned about the labeling of a feminist. I think what's the problem of actually talking about this? Or should we be afraid of just because we promote certain values, we get a particular labeling that's why we don't talk about it? I don't think that should be the case. If it's about educating more people, sharing of ideas, you're not out there to harm others. I think it's important to actually share these ideas, share these thoughts, have people discuss. And that's how we reduce the ignorance and arrogance that we have in our society. So it is definitely, I have to say, it is definitely an uphill battle for once of our society. But at the same time, in order to uplift everyone, I mean, it takes both genders to really do something about it. So I think we need to find ways to reduce the ignorance and arrogance that we see around us.
Okay, there's a question back there, but I'm going to, if you could give her the microphone, and then I'll read one of the questions. They're starting to come in and quite quickly, and we're starting to run out of time a bit. Here's one question from the web. The glass ceiling is a big concern for women developing their career, and I think the single greatest evidence of this phenomenon is the lack of women in managerial positions. For example, we see more male officials and CEOs and even elementary school principals when there are a lot more female teachers. What are your opinions in this issue, and what actions are your companies taking in terms of this aspect?
I think I can answer this question.
I was hoping Christina would have something to say about this.
Because we have 40% female in our company.
Yes.
By doing that, I think we really need a lot of support from the family and also from the company, because we have the kindergarten in the company, so that our female management or the employee can take their kids to the company. So the company will take good care of their kids, and then they can spend a lot of time at work. And also, like, by doing that, I think we really need to focus on our own. Like, the ceiling is not because it exists. It's because everyone believes that they exist. We're afraid of it, and then they exist. Because when I was at Deloitte, I feel a lot of senior managers they choose to not be promoted to partner because they choose to like take more care of their family. They choose to become like less focused at work because they have other obligation to do. But if the family can support more and they could devote more in their career, that could be a different story. Like by saying that it's easier, by doing that it's really a lot more difficult. I understand like Sabrina have 4 kids. Like I still want to know like how you can balance that kind of life. But it's a lifelong journey that you have to understand what you really want to devote it to. And if you believe that the vision is strongly enough, the value is strongly enough, you will do it. And the ceiling will break by itself.
Okay. Do you have a microphone there? Great.
Yeah. So my previous question was actually about the glass ceiling, but from what you said, it raises a point in my mind, and it's about Asian families and the Asian culture. So I just want to ask about how, like I'm sure you've all had experiences since you're from Asian backgrounds. Like have you encountered any difficulties being part of that kind of Asian culture where, you know, being a girl is sometimes maybe looked down upon? And how did you tackle that and come out of that and, you know, have a career in innovation or whatever your respective fields are?
Angie?
All right. Like I said, I was not supposed to run Clover. Unfortunately, my brother passed away, so I was handed the job. So it's a difficult dilemma to swallow. But then, on the other hand, when I took up the job, everybody would scrutinize you and think, God, what do you know about intimates? What do you know about manufacturing? How much can she do? So it takes me twice as much work to get to know everything within a very short span of time and run the factory. You know, it's a huge business where we do have work. You know, we work with many of the top customers in America, but that doesn't mean it was handed to me just simple like that. You have to prove yourself, and then the supply chain will have to make sure you know you work with them seamlessly so that they can also respect you. So it takes a lot. For me, I would say I use more than 200% of a normal, you know, daily work time. When I first entered the company, I read about 1,000 emails a day just to try and understand what manufacturing is all about. There's no one to teach you. I mean, who would teach you? They would expect you to know everything. But that's not the case. So to me, I find that the race to become better is even harder.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, we have time for maybe one more question from the audience, and then one question here. This has stimulated a lot of interest. So, in the audience, if you want to raise your hand, we'll make sure a microphone gets to you. Please send a microphone up that way. And as the microphone travels, here's a question. You all have very impressive backgrounds, and it sounds like you got where you are partially because of your schooling. What would you say to the women who want to do amazing things and be strong in their fields or different fields, but don't have the education background? It's challenges versus chances. So what if one of the challenges is the funding for schooling? I think that's a really excellent question. Zarina?
I was reading this article, and there's a lot of funds and a lot of companies that are actually providing opportunities for both females and male students who cannot pay, or maybe they do not have opportunity to have an education in this particular area, and you can apply through this kind of programs. And these people, they will not only try to help you to get into university, but also will mentor you. And there are so many different platforms like that right now in the world. And even if you're in a different countries, they're helping you with the visa and accommodation and etc. So I'm very glad there are so many this kind of programs existing. And this problem, it is a problem, but it is changing and it's resolving right now.
Right, and then we had one question left in the audience, I believe. Oh, please, go ahead.
So, hi. So my name is Kevin.
No, please use it because they're recording this, and it's live webcast to schools across Hong Kong.
Right, so I'm MPhil student of first year in social science. Right, so I have a question. So I actually posted on the webcast. I don't think it's included. So the recent research shows that there's what they call as gender equality paradox, because they found out that the more equal countries are, the less likely women are to enroll in STEM fields. Which brings me to this question, which I just thought about like a few minutes ago. If everyone wants to push for the agenda of equality only for the sake of equality itself, will not that lead to actually, worsening inequality in itself? Like, it becomes a paradox on its own. So how do you respond to this question?
I'm not sure I understand the question, actually, because it seems like you're implying that the push for equality itself will create new inequalities. Is that your concern? In STEM.
Yes.
Equality will tend to correlate to less equality in STEM. That's what you were stressing. The paradox.
So I think, I don't know if everyone here is familiar. I did read the World Economic Forum report, right? There was a chart that shows that more developed countries that have less gender parity issue in terms of pay or whatever, end up with fewer women in the STEM fields.
That study, yeah.
That study, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the finding was basically that countries that tend to have more gender equality in general, like the Northern European countries, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, stop touching that. Girls are actually less likely to go into the STEM fields, whereas countries where there's less gender equality, such as Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, women and girls are more likely to go into STEM. And I observed that myself in Muslim-dominant localities that I was doing research in just in January. And it's paradoxical. And I think what the study was just highlighting is it's not just overall levels of equality in society that are determining the extent of which girls are going into the fields and staying in the fields and then rising to the ranks. It's more complicated than that. There isn't a simple solution in just saying, you have 3 months of maternity leave, therefore women are more likely to stay in these fields. No, there's no kind of magical Band-Aid. So I think that was the main point of that particular study, that it's a complex issue, and even in the countries that you would most expect there to be parity, gender parity in STEM, that's not the case. So unfortunately, we are now out of time. We have accumulated many, many questions. I think I'll coordinate with Sabrina's office to see if perhaps we can provide some answers to some of these questions online after the fact. For those of you who are disappointed that we were unable to get to your questions, I'd like to thank all of our panelists for coming and the audience as well for your patience.
Well, thank you so much. It's really an insightful discussion. So now, let's invite Professor Wei Shi to present the souvenirs to all our panel members.
So you invite me to balance more of the equality.
Please be seated. We're going to have people standing up one by one.
Christina Zhang. Miss Angie Lau. Mr. Theodore Ma. Dr. Sabrina Lin. Professor Kellee, Tsai. And eventually we will have Sabrina and Talia. So thank you very much. Let's take a group photo with Professor Xi and all the speakers today.
Okay, the photo shoot brings us to the end of today's event. Thank you everyone for coming, and please complete the audience opinion survey, which is accessible through the QR codes that you see on the sides and the front. And your feedback will be very helpful for us to improve our upcoming forums. Thank you.